the Ad hoc Harwich Parking Committee. This is a work session today. The purpose of the meeting is discussion and work session by the committee. There will be no public input and no votes taken. The public is welcome to come in and listen. Due to an error, there has been a corrected agenda. And by the way, that error was on my part. It originally read 5/30/19. That is incorrect. It's June 4th, today, of 19. That being said, the recording and taping notification as required by law. The town may audio or video record the meeting. Any person intending to either audio or video the recording, this open session is required to inform the chair. Since apparently nobody has notified me, there'll be no recording.
Well, we are recording.
Well, we are recording outside. Our old business,
There is none.
yeah, there's no meeting that we had to sign off on. All right.
Well, we have meeting minutes, I'm just not up to date.
Okay.
So there are no minutes.
At
Do we have
this
somebody
time,
new here that I don't know?
yes, there is. What I'm going to do is introduce our newest member, Frances Rich. Frances will be the sixth person on this committee, and we'd like to welcome her to the Harwich Ad hoc Committee.
Thank you.
Welcome.
If I may, at this time, take the opportunity to have, starting at my right, the board member, each of us introduce ourselves for the record. Start with Mike.
Mike Ulrich.
Francis Rich?
John Mahan?
Al Donahue.
Cindy Williams, Harwich Chamber.
Charlene Greenhouse, Town Planner.
All right, thank you. Let's see, for new business, we're going to be discussing potential parking locations. Future locations. In some of the places that will be spoken about, but not limited to, is the Town Hall parking lot, the Cultural Center. I put in the Post Office Plaza, and there are others, we hope, that can be discussed, one of which I'm going to defer to John at this moment, since it was a piece of property that had been looked at, but may or may not be available.
Mr. Chair, there is a property to the left, immediate left of BB's Automotive, which is between the big white Sykes building where the boat has always been and BB Automotive. I just happened to bump into the owner, the new owner, a couple weeks ago, and he was just talking and asked him what he was gonna do with it, and the wheels just started turning. Don't know if it's feasible, don't know what the limitations or allowances or anything would be on that, but it's close proximity to Howardsport, and I think that should be put on the list of exploration.
Okay. Thank you. One of the other, this was mentioned to me at some point in the last couple of weeks. Sam's Auto Repair
Yeah, by
on
George.
Route 28 on Kildee.
Yep, it's right across, it's right near George's Fish Market.
Yeah. I don't know anything with regard to the owner's viewpoint of this, because it's never been addressed with them. But it was indicated to me, and I did take a ride down there, there's a large lot behind that building. When I went by it about a week ago, it was virtually empty except for a couple of cars. The individual I had been speaking with thought it might be possible to talk to the owner of the property and ask if they would be willing to allow that property to be used for parking for Harwich Port. Beyond that, we've had no further discussion about it. It may be something that the committee might find viable, or maybe not. So, does anybody else have any other recommendations, suggestions that we might begin to look at? signs.
Can I ask a
golden.
couple questions?
Certainly.
Are you looking for parking for various times of day? Some of it might be evening parking, some of it might be day parking, some of it might be, you might find a location that would be suitable for night but not day, and vice versa?
Yes, but we're looking overall for parking for not only the evening hours, but for daytime.
For daytime
Because of
use too.
the beach has become, well, the beach is the beach.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be from anywhere from 8 AM in the morning until, whenever. The other issue, of course, has been the downtown, having to do with the business community. The parking, and I don't know that you're aware of this, but the municipal parking lot is part of the licensing process for those businesses down there, which means they have access to spaces down there for their customers. They don't have any independent parking.
Yeah.
It's actually through the site plan review
site plan,
process,
thank you.
not the licensing
All right,
process,
thank you.
just to clarify, because they're two very different things.
Okay. I couldn't think of it.
That's why I'm here.
I know it, thank you. Yeah, the other thing was too, I don't know if you're aware of it, but the newest building downtown on 28, that has traditionally been assumed to be public parking.
Yeah.
That is not public parking.
Yeah.
So consequently, whatever spaces had been used by the public and those businesses down there, no longer available.
And signage will be going up shortly in regards to that.
I did notice the ones on, the one on Pleasant Street, public parking, no beach parking.
Yeah.
I did see that.
Oh, those went
Yeah,
up
that was great.
right after it went through the selectors,
Yeah.
the next day, those went up. But the private building that Al is speaking of, Harwich
yeah.
Port Commons,
Yep.
that is private parking and signage will be going up.
That says private parking, yeah.
Because it was always, when Dino's was there, it was always perceived to be public. But it always really truly was private for those businesses that were in there.
The first time I knew what the name of that building actually was.
Harwich Port Commons,
Yeah.
yes.
Harwich Port Commons, okay. It's better than calling it the Eyebrow Building.
It's got some other names now, too. So if you're looking for beach parking for the day, how much more beach parking is it felt that let's say Bank Street Beach can even hold? Because that beach gets pretty crowded. So are you estimating that there could be X number of people more on that beach, so X number of more parking spaces are needed?
Well, Cindy, and Cindy with the Chamber of Commerce, her office is right on that municipal, that's the same area. The conversation has been that the beach, people who are utilizing the beach, have been parking in that lot.
I know.
And as you are probably
I
aware,
know, yeah.
you can just go through the back of, thank you, Harwich Port Commons, and you come out onto the back road to go down to the beach.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is reduce the volume of beach parking in that municipal lot. We have discussed as to how we would manage to do that. Part of it was putting that international, I refer to it as that, maybe it's correct, maybe it's incorrect. He has that. The international no parking sign, and the committee decided to put in no beach parking. One of the things that came up was kind of interesting, at least I found to be interesting. On Bank Street itself, going towards the beach, is the library, the small library building. That lot has traditionally had no beach parking. And just the sign itself seems to have been relatively sufficient. Yes, things have changed. Some of the businesses apparently have, their employees are parking in that lot as well now. So the idea was to put the signage up, no penalty involved, this is not punitive. Some folks felt as though it should be a tag by the police, should folks be found to be in violation, but there is no violation, no legal violation. One of the discussions has been with Cindy and John relative to having a part-time employee, somebody who is affiliated with rec, or Cindy has an affiliation with, apparently, a possible
Interns
grant,
and stuff, interns from the
interns.
high school and stuff, but
And to have them periodically go into the lot. Purpose being, we do not have any data regarding how many cars actually are parked in that lot, people who go down to the beach.
Yeah.
Some of the public that had been here wanted to have those cars tagged. That's not in our prescription plan at this time for that.
Yeah.
The thought process on this was, how do we determine how long cars are actually staying in that parking lot? John, I think, brought it up, and Mike did. There actually is a legal liability for the police. They can't traditionally used to mark the wheels of cars. And you would make a determination as to the length of time a car was parked there. We were told, and I know it's factual, is that police no longer can do that. My personal feeling on this is, the folks that are gonna be doing it are not law enforcement. They've got nothing to do with the police department. Should somebody that Cindy have be out in that lot, or John, however we work this out, they can mark the wheel of the car. I may have to get clarification from the police department, but they are not law enforcement. And as far as I read the record on this thing, that's law enforcement. These young folks are not gonna be law enforcement. But we're looking for a level, how we determine what is being parked down there, and the turnover. And it's gonna be periodic, it isn't that somebody's gonna stand in the parking lot. One of the other things that had been talked about in the future is a kiosk, which is much the same as they have just implemented in Dennis,
to Seward Harbor, I believe.
Seward Harbor. And that's being done on how was that being proposed? Trial period,
Trial
yeah.
basis.
So what we're also trying to do is we're trying to minimize the amount of cost to the public on this. Taxpayers in Harwich, I think you may have heard.
I was at town meeting.
I bet you were.
Whoa, yeah,
Yeah, so we're trying to do this,
yeah,
bearing in mind that there are various pressures,
yeah.
and justifiably so, from the taxpayers. So the purpose of this was to try to come up with some additional. Now, what becomes problematic, the committee knows it, is that when you're talking about property that's private as opposed to public, and the town does not have a tremendous amount of public property, not in close proximity. There are some places further away. The other discussion had been the feasibility of using valet service. Having an area where the public could park and be valeted to the beach.
Yeah. Like the property on Bank Street that the neighbors weren't too happy about.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. The difficulty of this is, again, is because it's private property.
Yeah.
The TD Bank and Cape Cod 5 have been generous enough to allow the town to use their property. There is an agreement with, am I correct?
Well, I mean, they
I was gonna
agreed,
explain that.
when I approached them, because they're both members of the chamber, to have, after 5 o'clock, letting employees, letting other people know that they can park there. They agreed. It's not a written agreement, it is an agreement between saying yes to the chamber, because they're good partners of ours.
Yeah.
So we reached out to just secure another place for people to come and know about. So we're putting it on maps that we're doing and stuff. This is the year of educating, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that have transpired over the winter months for that. So both, as Al just mentioned, Cape Cod 5 and TD Bank after 5 o'clock, which people were doing anyway.
Yeah.
It's not something new that I just thought of and, wow, we just got the golden ticket kind of thing. It's something that's been happening anyway, but now we've kind of legitimized it, so.
So CVS parking lot is on your list.
Yes.
Is that a private,
private lot.
private
I haven't found out who the actual owner is. I have a note because I have to reach out to one of the businesses down there anyway on something else today. I'm gonna see if he can give me the contact of who owns the building to at least reach out and see. Because I don't know if they have them up yet. Do they have theirs
I
up?
think they do.
But last year they started no parking signs, so, just for customers only, because, so, I'm gonna reach out and smile pretty and hope that they'll say, yes, you can have it for,
Yeah.
but I don't know,
yeah.
you know, because that is a private lot, yes.
The other aspect of tying this in is, Sequatucket Harbor,
Yeah.
which hopefully is going to be part of the master plan, whatever that may turn out to be, of tying Harwich Port so that the public has access, because they're going to be running the art shows down there. There is a new, I don't want to use the word restaurant, snack shack
Yeah.
down there. Currently, there is no way to get down to the port, the harbor, by sidewalk. There is no sidewalk.
No sidewalk, no, and it's a
And the
dangerous
concern
road.
is, much of the public, as you know, walks, and much of them bike. It's a dangerous road going down there. There has been some effort to get state funding for it. I think it's back in the works. It sort of fell apart, unfortunately, some time ago. But the Public Works Department has been working on this to try to get some funding for that. So we're kind of trying to tie this in, but that's further down the road. And this is, what we're looking for now is rather small, to see what we could actually come up with. Now, the thing with regard to, and the only reason I put it on the post office, I call it Post Office Plaza. If there be some way to use that for valet service. And I was thinking of the parking spaces that are along the Lower County Road that backs up to Lower County. I have not taken the opportunity to go over there and count up the spaces. Again, we would have no idea at this stage whether they'd even be remotely interested in it. John had mentioned no parking signs coming up. When you have art in the park up there, and you have all these other events, like anything else, they got upset with people
I
coming up.
know during the Village Crafters shows that are there in July and August, they have reached out to, I believe, CVS, and CVS is letting them use the back for the vendors parking, but not for regular. I do know that because they've told me of such. The other thing is, we could talk to the post office. So instead of and see, I think the post office, I don't know if it, there's a line down the center, they own this and but I know during Christmas in Harwich, the post office has let us use that in the past, once or twice for something that we've done in the parking lot, where the trucks, the mail trucks usually park. So certainly, I believe there's a new postmaster down there. We can reach out to them and see if that piece we can use. There's, again, the owners of the plaza, see if they own that parking lot. I don't know who owns it.
It's all one property. I think the post office leases.
Okay,
Yeah, they don't own any
All right.
property, as far as I know.
they just did it out of generosity then. Okay.
Yeah.
Where do the art in the park people park on Mondays, now that those no parking signs are there?
I don't know.
They still park in the they don't pay any attention to the no parking
Most
signs,
likely, yeah.
and
it's-
they park in there.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Chair, if I may, back to Fran's
Yes.
comment about Bank Street Beach. I don't believe this group is looking for specific beach parking,
Okay.
okay? And it's never, and I'll put on a different hat as a member of Youth and Rec, that issue's never come up in our group, that we need more parking to get more people at Bank Street.
Okay.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
At what point does that bubble burst?
Yeah.
That there's more people than there is beach?
Yeah.
without parking, without being all the way up to the parking lot.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're not looking at
Yeah,
beach.
but we
Okay.
did have a brief discussion at one point about how we can try and let people know that there's available beach parking at other beaches.
Yep.
You know, what do we
Like
got,
Earl
28
Road
beaches?
There's 21 beaches and
21
ponds
beaches.
in Harwich.
Yeah.
And so, starting June 10th, the Chamber, as well as Town Hall and the Community Center start to sell the beach
Yeah.
stickers. One of the things that we've come up with that the Chamber's going to do is we already have maps that Rec does, but we'll highlight where the other beaches are. And also let people know, well, if you favor Bank Street, you need to get down there by 8 o'clock.
Yeah,
And if you don't get down there, that's fine. Try one of the other 20, and then circle down again. But,
Yeah.
the big thing, and I think Al touched on it, when these businesses came in, the galleries, the shops, and the restaurants came into town, they had to be in front of the town and fill out their site plan that says, okay, I'm 300 feet from the municipal lot, I get to have this many spots. We've become so popular, which is a great thing in Harwich Port, but we also have to figure out how to help everybody continue to be so popular. So this is what we're going to try.
right.
And we may find when we reconvene in September that it didn't work, that we're going to have to maybe do a kiosk kind of thing, or then put out an RFP for transportation of some sort and see what happens then.
Or an RFP for other parking.
Satellite lot or?
You know, satellite, I mean, you touched on a couple spots that might be ideal
Right.
for that. Just like we had at one of our past meetings, the gentleman who have the
valet service.
the valet service in Chatham, the
Well,
old
and that would-
Eldridge parking.
That would fall under, though,
Yeah.
the transportation RFP, because we have other businesses in town that would also want to go for that as well. So I think we need to stay on track with how we're going to do that process. I have a note that that's going to be something that we're going to need, if we're going to have off-site places that are this far from the beaches and such, we're going to need to partner that with this RFP next.
Do you know what RFP is? It's request for proposal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My bad, I use acronyms.
One thing I'd like to add to those, I think we should kind of, even though, as John mentioned, it's a little bit off topic with the beach parking, I think that it all is kind of related, because we are a tourist destination, and we should be welcoming and encouraging people to come here to go to the beach. But like, for example, we have no beach parking, which is kind of a negative. If we put a kiosk, I think that's kind of a negative. Where do those people go, right? So if we keep putting up negatives, it's like, well, I'm gonna go somewhere else, right? And then that affects our businesses too. So for example, if we had like Earl Road Beach, I think, which is way underutilized, not many people know about it, especially that secondary lot. If we had beach parking, little signs, we have the P with no beach parking.
Yeah.
How about beach parking? And then, maps would help and so forth, but I think if people are driving down, oh, hey, there's a spot.
There's specific
Yeah,
beach
so you
parking
want to
somewhere.
encourage beach parking. Like, if we could, again,
Yeah,
to the chairman's point, if we could somehow work into the harbor, which we spent a lot of money and renovated it, looks great, and we have a lot more parking there. I know a lot of it's been utilized, across the street and so forth, but if we can work on a safety issue and kind of keep agitating and getting that sidewalk piece put together, I mean, I think it's nice to have a big plan, because sometimes it's like, well, how about this lot over here, how about this lot over here, how about this lot over, how about if we have like a bigger plan? How does this all work with our tourists? How is it gonna work with our businesses? How is it gonna work overall with the landscape of the town of Harwich?
See, Mike, you hit
Yeah.
what I think is the nail, because I've been giving that some thought. As I had said to Francis, this is a small step, but and you're correct, there is a bigger picture involved in this, much larger picture. It's going to presumably tie in Harwich Center once that gets worked out, which is going to be difficult. We had talked briefly about the possibility of using a trolley, which many communities do. And the only thought, I was thinking about this, if it was at all feasible at some point down the road, and this is gonna be some point down the road, that if the harbor gets tied into it, and you have tourists come into the area, which we have, for those of you who travel, generally people, when they come into something that's new, they like to take a tour. They want to see what is around them. This community has a tremendous amount to offer. Consequently, if they come into a portion, let's say downtown, and if you went down 28, and I, years ago, knew somebody who actually ran a tour business, and they had somebody on the bus, on the trolley, that would relate to the passengers. I mean, they do this in Hyannis, we know that with the duck boats. And as you pass along down 28, and let's just say for the sake of the spot, Gorham Road. You come up Gorham Road, again, we're going through a rather densely populated area, but you've got these magnificent cranberry bogs. You come back out onto Bank Street, and if you're going towards the center of town, you've got all these beautiful homes, some of which have quite a history.
Yep.
Not the least of which is that very lovely home further up in Bank Street, which I think was part of the Underground Railroad. If you know the one I'm talking about.
Columns.
Yep.
You don't have to stop and get out, but if it's brought up, and as we come up Bank Street, depending upon how this works out, but even if you went down Parallel Street, we have those beautiful buildings, the inn that's up there, magnificent. The library is incredible. Brooks Park. The history of these places is
Old
stunning.
museum.
It's stunning. Am I getting ahead of everything? Yeah, way ahead of it. This is gonna be coming down the road. But if you were to come up and through and down Sisson Road, take, I'm going all the way down as far as, what's our first left, John, off of Sisson,
Forest.
Forest Street, yeah. Even if you went down Forest Street, I'm talking about being in.
Yep.
We pull in the businesses down on Forest Street, they put a call, and those businesses along there, plus you'd bring in, Sativa, and just make a loop.
Yep.
And this isn't cast in stone, it could go virtually anywhere. But this is, unfortunately, we've got to get this first step going before anything else really materializes. Anybody got any thoughts at all? Thanks for bringing it up, Mike.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking that, just one thing, is, as far as like the parking, like, we shouldn't just, I know we're looking for commercial parking, but I think we should also be looking at beach parking. I think maybe it's not part of this, but it's parking, right? So part of it is encouraging parking, and, maybe the satellites are for, rather than for the businesses, it's the satellites are for the beach parking, and a shuttle service of some sort that is for beach parking. That could be on remote sites if, the others aren't available or whatever. But I think just having people being aware of, and I just keep using, Earl Road, I just think it's so underutilized. I mean, the beaches, you can only put so many people on the beaches, I'm overpacked.
You
and
can't
it's-
go near Red River, you can't go near Bank.
No, they're
But
out.
you're right.
Yeah, but there are some other areas, and you want to encourage, just as far as just the overall perception, I don't want it to be, kiosk, no, 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 no. I'd rather have it, yes, 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 and
Yeah.
let's all work this thing together.
Yeah.
So that it's a welcoming town, as opposed to, to me, when you see no and
Yeah.
charging and kiosk and this and that, it's more of a negative tone. We're a no shark town, right? So we have great beaches. We have great opportunities to not,
Can't use that.
not get eaten.
July 4th, there was a great white shark 4 miles off of Harwich Port last year, and they never told us.
Yeah, well, that's far, I'm not swimming out that far.
Yeah, I don't swim out that far, but,
Waiting by the shore.
I wouldn't,
Just kidding.
yeah. It's hard to look down the road. I would love to hear from our town planner on a thought that something I've been thinking recently, as to what's really gonna happen to the Cape, because we've got sharks. Are people gonna start looking somewhere where there are no sharks if they can't go swimming.
There's sharks everywhere
But there's,
now.
well,
A young girl just lost her leg down in North Carolina.
yeah,
I mean,
well, that's down south, but Maine doesn't have, they're not up in Maine in the summertime. But the other
well, if
thing
you
is,
believe in climate change,
yeah,
it'll happen.
it'll happen. But I see,
I do.
we're not gonna know this year about the Airbnb taxes, I call it, because most people who rented signed their agreements before the 1st of January, so they're exempt for this year. But is the Airbnb tax,
That's nothing to do with the town, and technically in this town, Airbnbs are illegal.
but I still wonder if it's gonna affect the people, when you take the shark, you take the extra tax. I wonder if down the road,
The extra
we're
tax
gonna have
is-
fewer people.
The extra tax is statewide.
Oh, I know,
Yeah,
but it's a.
We do vacation rentals,
I guess
and
that's-
But
I
it's a-
talked to other
it's-
vacation rental companies, a lot of them around here that I've spoken to, probably about 10. Everybody's down 25 to 35% off. And we get calls all the time, people saying, outraged about the
Not the
tax.
sharks.
It's not, it's
That's
the
the
rental,
sharks,
it's the
no.
rental
It's the
tax.
tax, yeah.
Because you can go to a different state, you're still paying a tax, you're paying half the tax.
Right.
That people are paying here.
I
And the
don't-
tourists that come to Cape Cod come with a budget,
Right.
come with a budget. And that $300 in tax, they're
Or
saying,
more.
or more,
Yeah.
they're gonna say, I have to cut my spending. I can't go to George's maybe only once a week instead of twice a week. I'm only gonna take the kids to Sunday school once a week as opposed to 3 times a week. Our businesses we're not gonna see too much this year, but by next year and the year after, I think we are gonna see it. I've pulled my cottage out of renting. Just let my kids use it. My tenant said, and this is tenants who've been coming for 10 years,
Yeah.
no, I'm not gonna
Too,
pay the tax.
yeah, right.
I won't. So we don't know what's down the road for the Harwiches in terms of the number of people, because if the rental places are saying, requests are down 25%. That's not
That's a
just,
lot, yeah.
that's a
It's
lot.
a big number.
And we're gonna see the effect more next year than this year.
Well, you bring up a very important subject. However, our charge is regarding parking.
Parking.
That very, very big picture that you have brought up is going to have to be addressed well beyond the scope of this committee. And consequently, I'd like it to try to stay focused on the parking aspect of it, because, as we said before, and I hate to beat this one to death, is building blocks.
Yeah.
And we're just starting to build. Eventually, even what Michael and I were talking about, that's so far down the road that it's probably a pipe dream, but.
Well, I think in some respects, it does tie in to a degree, just that,
Yeah.
like, encouraging, as, because there are people who are put off by different things, right? So I just think that, we want to be welcoming the whole community, our whole town, every bit of Harwich should be positive as opposed, I just look at some of the
Right.
kiosks, for example, just something that for me just sounds like a negative. If you see no this, no that, no parking, no beach parking, no this, no, you know what I mean? As opposed to this, so I think and it does, because you want to be encouraging, so even to your point, John, I don't think there are many people that are saying, okay, I'm not coming to the Cape because of the sharks, but there are a few
Sure.
who have said to us that we're not going to go rent, I'm not going to tell you the other towns, but they want to come here because they know that there hasn't been any sightings here, with younger families, because they feel more comfortable having their kids on the beaches out here. So there's a few that are impacted, but I just think we want to encourage everybody on a positive. So I think that does impact the parking, our decisions on the parking to a degree.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, is it, just for sake of discussion, counterpoint to Michael, Plymouth, P-Town, Hyannis, all have kiosk parking, and you know as well, as you go through Ocean Street in Hyannis, you can't find a parking spot. So, that'll have to be explored at a later date, obviously. But I agree, you don't wanna discourage them from coming, but unless we come up with a another solution that may have to be explored a little further, that's all. You know, there's two sides to that coin.
Getting back to what Mike said with regard to, and I'll just run this by this committee. How do we feel about a parking sign? We kind of slightly kicked this one around, getting traffic to get down to Earl Road. Is that any kind of a viable or even a worthwhile suggestion? Utilize that beach?
So I personally do. I mean, I think beach parking with an arrow, right?
But they have to pay anyway. I mean, they have to get a sticker to be on Earl
Right.
Road.
But there's
So,
a gate, you can buy daily tickets there,
yes, you can.
so if you're
Yeah.
there for the day.
Yep.
And just for people who might not know about it, right? I think there's a lot of people, probably even living in the town, that don't know about
Sorry,
it.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, perfectly.
But should it say something,
Jump in.
if you're gonna do something like that, though, where it is a daily sticker, that you can buy a daily sticker, I think the signage needs to say something to that effect too. You can't just have a sign that says beach parking, because then you're gonna get someone that goes down to it, and they're told they have to pay $20, and they didn't know, you know, we gotta give everybody all the information, because, I mean, if we're gonna advertise that there's beach parking, yes, that's a great thing, but
But I think all of Massachusetts, they charge parking, I
we
think.
do,
So
but you'd be amazed at when people come in and we tell them things, I mean, they like to have all the information before they get somewhere.
I agree with what you're saying. I think that my only thought was just like what we did at the chamber, you know, the P with, you know, the no beach parking. So there you just have beach parking, and they go down there, and I think most people are probably, you know, they wouldn't be shocked. I mean, when I went down to Florida, and they have these beautiful beaches down there with all kinds of facilities, outside showers and cookout grills and beautiful parks and everything else, and you pull in there, I'm nervous to get out of my car. Somebody got sick of me here. Who do I pay?
Yeah.
You don't pay anybody. So I think that's more you know what I mean? So I think that people wouldn't be that offended if they drive down there and then they have to pay, or, you know, a daily parking fee.
And that's an easily monitored situation, because there's a gate guard there. So you could do it the first year
Right.
with just the beach parking. And then if the gate guard's getting beat up many times a
Right,
day
right.
because they get there, then we reassess it for next year.
Right.
But I mean, for the short term, I don't see why. And I've had comments on those universal Ps already at the chamber. The chamber, a lot of people love them, the big blue ones. So I don't think at this point that you need I think just parking, maybe the universal P with beach attachment underneath it.
It would require, this is where the rub is, if that P, let's just say for the sake of discussion, is at 28 in Lower County, there would have to be additional
You need
Ps
two of 'em.
put further down the road, which I suspect may or may not be welcomed.
Well, other communities, what they do, they'll have, you know, signage at specific locations. You know, Corporation Beach, parking lot full. National Seashore, Marconi, full.
It's on Route 6.
Right.
So, I mean, you need to be creative, and there are examples out there of how this can be done. You can have it on websites, you can have it on an app. Geez, I'm dying to go to the beach. What beach is open right now in Harwich?
Right.
That I can get into? And you can have it, you know, show what the cost of the parking is. You know, one of the first meetings, we talked about putting signage up to say, you know, there's alternative parking.
Let me ask you this, there are how many beaches in Harwich?
21 beaches and ponds.
We have some lovely, really nice-looking freshwater beaches. Now, let me throw this out to our committee. There's going to be work done on the beach down on
Sand Pond.
Sand Pond. They're going to build a new bathhouse. And they're going to do some work apparently on the beach area itself, if I remember. Does the committee have any sense that maybe including those parking signs down at that location and having that beach be part of the chamber's information?
think it already is it not?
Is it already in it? I'm
It's a-
asking.
So the flyer that the rec does, the beach map, it has all of the beaches and ponds on it.
Okay.
Doesn't have, the updates that Sand Pond is doing anything, but certainly any information that, like today, Uncle Vini's is blocked off for Red River. So that went out, again, it's gonna be people keeping everyone informed. So, if we know something, then we can have it starting next week when the beach stickers go on sale, that, okay, Uncle Vini's in Red River, that road is closed until whatever, give people, but it is on, Sand Pond is on, I believe Sand Pond's on it.
Interestingly enough, if you saw it at the town meeting about Sand Pond, that the feedback from the voters was, don't make this Bank Street. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah.
They like their own, they like that, and that was interesting. I mean, 2 or 3 different speakers got up, and everybody was like clapping, and it was just interesting that they don't want that to become an amusement park.
Right, well, years ago, when I worked in Dennis, and I'd go by that beach every single day, it was way more popular back then. But then it kind of,
Swim lessons used to be there
yeah,
when I
swimming
first
lessons
came
were
to
there and stuff, and then, it wasn't kept up, and that's why we're going and doing it now. So it kind of fell off the popularity
Yeah.
area. But that's a big lot in there. That's a real big lot.
How many parking spaces are at Earl Beach? And is it ever full, or is it,
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I should have brought the beach map with me. I didn't even think to do that actually today. Because it has the beach maps that we have, that community center has, I
Yeah.
believe town hall has, have all the beaches and how many parking spots at each. So,
I think the front fills more often. I don't know how often the back, the extended lot fills.
yeah. I never go there.
I don't either.
I do.
I think I'm,
That's Al's favorite. That's why he's not talking about it.
I'll see you there this summer. Huh.
There was another, freshwater beach, and like Charlene says, mentioned the parking. Is it on Long Road? Am I
Long
correct?
Pond has 2
Long
beaches.
Pond and Cahoons.
Right,
Yeah.
well, Long Pond has a pretty good size, as I remember, parking
huge.
area there.
It's huge.
It has a lovely beach.
Bathroom.
It has, bathroom. It has a boat,
Well,
area,
launch, yeah.
launch down there.
Yeah.
We are so tied into the fresh water in our Bank Street. Now, we all know that's why people come to the Cape. They're not coming for fresh pond water. But if we kind of present that, would it have any impact at all? I mean, if we as a group had young children and we realized that, oh, we can't get down to Bank Street Beach, and they know that within a relatively short distance, there's a lovely freshwater pond. Not only is there one, there's 2, there's at least 3. Would you, and I'm kind of throwing it up, if you had that shoe in your foot, would you consider going there?
If it was free parking. Make it free parking at the freshwater ponds.
Oh, yeah,
Well, not all of them, no.
no?
No, I'm saying if we made it free parking
Oh,
at
you
the
mean-
But,
freshwater.
I mean, I don't swim in the ocean. I haven't swum in the ocean for years. I don't care for the ocean. When I used to go, I would go to ponds and lakes. So, I mean, to me, I like looking at the ocean and, sitting on the beach, but I don't go in the ocean. So, I would not want to see those be free.
Yeah. Okay. Then there-
Plus that money that, is raised by the beach stickers, it goes back to a lot of the debt that we incur over the years. So I don't think we can, take money away from ourselves.
How do you justify?
Yeah.
You're charging me to go to Earl, but I can go to Long Pond for free.
Yeah, I was just thinking
Yeah.
it would help with the parking. If most people want to go to salt water, you charge for the salt water, and I don't know. And when people buy beach stickers, do some people buy a beach sticker and just go to freshwater ponds with those beach stickers?
So,
Yeah.
what I make sure that and see, I'm the only one that sells them at our office.
Yeah.
So when I start, I go through all the beaches and ponds, so I highlight them for the people so
Yeah.
they know. And go through the whole situation with the parking. You know, you
Yeah.
wanna get down and treat it as I'm giving them the hidden secrets.
Yeah.
You know, so that, and I've just said that on TV, now it's not hidden anymore. But just say, okay, this is when you wanna go to this beach, this is when you wanna go to this
Yeah.
pond. And let them know that there is more than just, Bank Street or Red
Yeah.
River.
Yeah.
It's an educating thing to let people know how beautiful and all the work that we've done over the winter and, the spring for these wonderful beaches and ponds. So
Yeah.
it's all in how you sell it.
Yeah.
You know?
So given what Cindy said, and she's a wonderful salesperson.
She's created our problem.
Actually, no.
It's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have now, yeah.
Thank you, Cindy.
Actually, I think she's got a great idea. She does this salesmanship on these ponds and the ocean. If at all possible, would it be reasonable that the other locations in town that issue these stickers, while they may not be as capable as Cindy in salesmanship, what?
Being in town hall and seeing the mad crush of people coming in to get stickers here at town hall.
Okay.
There's no way that the treasurer collector's department can take the time to go over, they can just hand them the thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
There are lines just through the whole lobby downstairs. I don't know what it's like at the community center, because I've not
it's
been
a
over
huge
there.
line.
I have
They have
one-
more
They
people
just
at the community
can't
center.
do it.
I also have
You have
lines.
more one-on-one.
Right, but
sometimes.
I'm gonna beg to differ on a couple of things just then, because when we close here at 4:30 on a Friday, or 4 o'clock now, it is bedlam at my office when I'm the only one in town doing this. So I make sure, and I speak loud enough, and I have a conference room that I do it very similar to this situation, that I have 3 or 4 people, families that will sit there, and I'll go through the whole thing with all of them. And people wait. I'll highlight, and then my volunteer out in the lobby is gonna be telling them about the other things that are going on, the bike trail and all the other stuff. So, yes, the ladies downstairs, they have all kinds of other things, and I just know in July and August that my other stuff is gonna be done before 9 AM or after 5 PM. So I make sure, because it's important that everyone does know, because there is so much educating that has to happen this year.
Yeah, we're only open 8:30 to 4, so.
I couldn't remember the exact hours, and I just
Yeah.
know that
And
after,
there's between payroll and bill paying, and I just logically don't see it happening here. I'm sure if they had the time and opportunity, they absolutely would, but I don't think that they do.
Well, let me ask you this, Charlene, regarding, you're very, very familiar with this area, obviously. If there were posters and maps just displayed on the walls during the high season down here and the community center, now realize that not everybody's going to give the spiel, but if these posters or maps, the town would be willing to send them out, blow them up, put them up on the wall, and as people are lined up at the community center, or lined up out here, they might actually want to stand there and look with some interest as to where these places are actually located. I don't know whether that would,
In theory, I think it's a great idea. I know when I worked in Truro, that's exactly what they did. And they had actually a video of the various beaches. In the hallway downstairs, there's no walls, so,
yeah.
to put things like that. I don't even know where they are at the community center. I've never been there when stickers are sold, so I don't know. So there are other creative, inventive ways to let people know. Other communities are doing it now.
Okay.
Go ahead. I feel like
In some restaurants, you see the little holders, Cindy, with different advertisement, different this, that, and the next thing. How about putting the beach maps in different restaurants. Would that be an option?
Sure, we just need the paper to print them.
And we can, I mean, that's what
Yeah.
you're saying. It might not be an option right now, but I mean, it may be something to look at. I mean, if you had another
If I-
dozen restaurants that said,
All-
sure, put them in, or,
All I need is if someone brings, because the rec usually will provide me with the paper, bring it down, I've got a large copy machine, and we'll print them out, and I'll have us scurry them around.
okay?
Oh, yep, I just need the paper.
I came to this meeting to be quiet and listen to what everybody was doing. But, Bank Street. It's being used to store boats and for people to hike in the bog. And there was pushback from some neighbors, so that's not gonna work. Well, I'd like to revisit that, because what is gonna happen to that lot? The selectmen, I believe, are gonna tear down the building, and they have permission to sell the lot. For what use? Is it residential only? Could somebody get a variance to put something else there?
I believe conservation wasn't. the
Is it all
possibility.
gonna be just for conservation? What's gonna what could happen to that lot?
Anything can happen to any lot, but it's my understanding that that is slated to be continued to use as conservation. That's the first avenue that I believe they have to go to sell the property. That property right now where the building stands, if that building comes down, would not be a buildable lot.
It would not be a buildable lot, so it's conservation.
No. And, just from a standpoint of that property, I think this committee made its recommendation and heard loud and clear from the selectmen that we're not to go there.
Okay,
My opinion, recommendation's been made. They chose not to take it. We need to move on.
you need to move on.
I
from
still
that.
think it's an ideal location, but,
But if it's
For the
only
record, as do I.
yeah.
If it's only conservation, then, yeah.
Or what, who knows? Who knows if they're ever gonna sell it? Who knows if they're ever gonna tear the building down? I don't know. No one knows. It's on the list of things to do, and I don't know where on the list it is.
As in everything that we've learned over the last few months with this committee, it's how you educate everyone, including businesses, residents, and everything. There are ways that everything can work. We need to all have open minds and see outside of our own little worlds too, because the entire community of Harwich, the 7 villages, have so many amazing things throughout them, but we all need to work together too. And sometimes we may tend to forget that.
Yeah.
And we all chose to own homes here because we love what Harwich has, whether we're in West Harwich, East Harwich, or Harwich Port or Harwich Center. So we just all need to work together still somehow to figure it all out. And yes, that was a very good idea. And it's, who knows what'll happen, with the unforeseen use of it, We brought forward a good idea that was going to alleviate some of, but again, we try to listen to everybody.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yes.
I think it's important, we've had, at the very beginning of the meeting, we talked about different option, location. I think that's something that should be on our priority list, how we move forward, because we know what's going to happen. It's now June. Then it's gonna be, the summer's gonna be over. Then Christmas is gonna be here, and we're gonna be scrambling. And this is not, I believe, as Charlene and Cindy can attest to, this is, whatever lot may be, may not be an easy process. They tried to do it with the Harwich Port lot last year, didn't go anywhere. So I think if that is the committee's thought process, then we should focus on that. If it isn't, then we go a different route. But any one of these 3 or 4 different locations that were brought up need to be explored further if that's and get that ball rolling. You need RFPs and.
And with all of those too, the pieces that go along with, if any of those are viable
Absolutely.
locations. All right, so we're gonna have people that can park, say, up at Town Hall. Well, how are they gonna get to? So we're gonna need to have all those plans and, you know, the action steps that go with those. So, yeah, that should be what we're working on next, is those,
And honestly, lately, I don't know what's going on, but Town Hall parking lot has been packed.
Bikers.
there was a whole bunch of
It's
people here.
crazy.
And that's a good point there.
Yeah.
The other thing somebody mentioned, it's been mentioned many times, Saquatucket. If the summer is going to be like Memorial Day weekend, there is not gonna be any overflow at
There's-
Saquatucket.
And I would not even count on Saquatucket being usable.
It was pretty full.
You know, in the off-season, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
No.
in season, Memorial Day to Labor
Yeah.
Day, that is for those, again, just like, you know, we say that the municipal lot in Harwich Port is for that area. It's also that, we need to see the summer and see what happens with Saquatucket, because if, like you said, Memorial Day is how the summer's gonna go, Saquatucket's gonna be full for the boats
a
and
good thing.
everything. So, but we've got two others that are town lots that we can look at. Mainly one, because if we look about the cultural center too, I think what we have to put on that is more of the summertime, would be the elementary school and the high school. Because the cultural center is coming into its own, and we really can't take from them the parking. I think during the summer months, your July 1 to Labor Day, you look at the Harwich Elementary and the Monomoy Regional High School, and take the cultural center out of that, because they have so much happening over there, and, but look at
Not a
the
ton
other
of
side.
parking there
And
anyways.
there's not a lot of
parking,
parking.
no,
Right.
there's really
Want to
not.
keep that
Yeah.
kind of open for that.
Right,
building.
exactly, but I
I'm
think
renting a
if we,
spot there, I want parking.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think we look at the others.
Actually, two things strike me, and John mentioned one. I got the impression at the selectmen's meeting that this committee does not have, they want information regarding costs by September.
That's not reasonable.
Also,
I
I
did-
don't think that's,
Did I
with all
miss-
due respect,
did I
they may
miss-
have said that, but that's not this committee's charge.
Right.
I don't think.
Well, what they wanted, excuse me, what they wanted was a recommendation again after the summer, what happened, and then, okay, so if this didn't work, what's going to? And more what thoughts would be, so then that would go into the whole RFP with the transportation to the satellite locations, as well as what would kiosks cost, because in September, they start the budget process. So that's what they were asking for us to gather, was that information. So when we come back in September, we'll then say to them, okay, so this, and this is gonna cost that, you need to put that in the budget. Or please put it in the budget. Not that you have to, but please. And then go from there. That's why they were asking us to bring back that information.
Okay, so, we're gonna have to come up, before we walk out of here, with a proposal we can work on.
And are we meeting in July and August?
Well, if we have to do something in September,
Right.
we have a choice.
I think
That
so.
wasn't, all right.
Well, I mean, if
So-
they're expecting something in September, we can't take the summer off.
So,
Pray for rain.
before, as I hear us all speaking, the town hall parking lot is going to be necessary to be a viable option, because the town owns it. And like Charlene says, and has eloquently put it, it's been full. But it may not be full every day of the week.
But you never know when it is.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it's that way with everything.
Yeah.
You know, you have a cloudy day, don't even try to find a parking place someplace in a commercial area, because everybody's out shopping.
Now, the cultural center, and again, I may stand corrected on this, and Charlene might be able to fill us in. The property that the parking lot sits on at the cultural center
It's still all one property with the elementary school. It's never been subdivided.
Okay.
And there's a ball field, and you got the elementary school, and then the community
Yeah.
center, and then you've got a smaller parking lot allocated for the community center, and then there's a teeny parking lot with access to the ball fields.
Okay, now across from the school is where the Harwich Theater has their,
Well, that's
am I
up-
referring to that? Yeah, that's right at the
That's-
top of.
That's right down
The old rec
here.
building, the white
The old
The
rec
old
building.
rec building.
We're gonna be looking at a part of that for affordable housing.
Okay. So that kind of may dissuade me. I was led to believe, and apparently I guess I'm gonna be right, that's town property back there,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
And that
It's
parking
not
lot.
a huge piece.
No,
Yeah.
okay. I was thinking if that parking lot could be expanded at a relatively nominal fee, that might become viable for parking. But since there's going to be,
I think with the lease agreement in place with the theater, and
Yeah.
I'm just gonna call it the junior theater,
Sure.
even though that's not what it's called anymore. I'm not sure that that is something that could happen, and particularly now that we're gonna be looking at affordable housing on a portion of that property, you know, there's gonna be shared parking between the residents of those, and when that's gonna happen, I don't know, but. And they also use that parking for the farmer's market.
yes, you're right. So,
Well, the summertime, it would be, what Cindy had mentioned, I think would be viable to come up with solutions using the high school and the elementary school, because they're not, first, you're not used at all.
okay,
But we also don't have control over those, so I think, you know, perhaps a conversation sooner rather than later would need to be had with the superintendent of schools, Scott Carpenter.
Before we go down that road too far, can we put our tourist hat on? If you were a tourist here and you wanted to take a shuttle, are you gonna take it from the high school or the cultural center? Or would you be hoping and looking to find one in the 28 corridor? And that's a legitimate question, because if we're focusing here, I personally would never go to the high school to get a shuttle.
See,
Go to Harwich Park.
I'd go to the park and ride at exit 10. If I knew it was a convenient place for me to park and I wouldn't have to worry about, you know, traffic, that's where I'd be.
Where am
But
I
put-
where am I taking this shuttle to? Downtown Harwichport?
Well, it could be, I think, depending on how it's set up, maybe the beach, maybe Harwich Port.
Which
Makes
beach?
sense.
The reason I'm saying that is, should we, instead of focusing on 1, 2, 3, we threw out 2 on 28 that were possibilities. Does the committee want to focus there, seeing as that seems to be the problem, and that's where the majority of the people tend to congregate, or do we want to back it out further? I'm not saying either one is right or wrong, I'm just saying, what's the,
which property you talking about at 28 you think is viable?
well, the one next to BB's that was there, we don't know if it's a viable lot.
Right.
And you mentioned the one to the right of,
Sam's,
yeah, the one
Sam's.
at the corner of Brooks
Yeah.
Road, not Brooks Road,
Right.
Kildee.
Kildee Hill, yeah.
Yeah.
So we have 2 in Harwichport that were thrown on the table today. We don't know if they're viable.
But that's also, to me, where an RFP, rather, you know, put an RFP together to figure out, you know, what it is we're looking for, get it vetted by the selectmen and administration, put it out there so people can, I mean, somebody may be sitting on a piece of property going, this would be perfect, that we just aren't even thinking of.
Right.
When I thought of the condos, you know, the condos that have been for the old hotel on 28 across
Right.
from the Stone Horse, the topography is terrible.
Right.
Oh,
But that's
geez,
been
yeah.
for sale forever.
Right.
If that, yeah, but the
Yeah,
topography doesn't work
yeah,
there, but
there'd have to
I'm
be a
driving
billy
down the
goat.
road, looking, going,
Yeah,
Right.
yep.
Is it steep the whole way back, or does it level off?
levels off
I
a
think it
little.
levels off at the top of
It's
the
still
hill.
pretty steep
The
getting to
access-
it, it's terrible.
It's
yeah.
horrible getting in and out of that, yeah. But there may be other properties that we're just not even thinking, or underutilized properties that could have a shared situation, you know, for additional parking.
So-
Holy Redeemer, may be interested in doing a
Holy
park.
Trinity?
Holy Trinity.
Yeah.
Where'd I get Redeemer
Yeah,
from?
Baptist
Chatham.
Church.
That is Chatham, sorry. But, you know, they've got a large parking lot that when church isn't in service and when they don't have the school going, I think they still have school there,
Or
right?
a funeral.
Or a funeral, you know, they've got a big parking lot.
Is that big Baptist church still in operation?
I don't know,
They've got a, they've
That's
got a
what-
parking
Down in West
lot
Harwich,
yeah.
yep.
in West Harwich.
And for some of these places, it might be a moneymaker for them.
So, Al had said we needed, before we left here, to come up with what we're gonna do. So, do you have any samples of RFPs for something like parking and transportation?
I certainly can reach out to my,
So I think that's where we need to start.
Chatham just did one, right?
We're gonna need both pieces.
Yes, so I think that's where we need to start, is the RFP thing. Because then once we have those, we'll know if there's a private, because I know of somebody else, and I'm not gonna go on the record of saying where yet, but that could be on the list as well. So I think that's what we need to do, first and foremost, is the RFPs. To get
I
the,
mean, sorry,
to get those done, and then once we have those come in and get vetted through all the proper channels, get those out to the public. So then those start coming in, because that's gonna be a financial piece too, that's gonna have some meat to it, that is gonna have to be embraced by and approved by selectmen and administration, all that kind of stuff, if it's gonna be able to go into the budget. So, that's probably first what we need to do.
Now, let me ask you this. Do we need two RFPs, parking and transportation each, right?
Yep.
We need two of them.
Because there's two different
Right.
people that'll be going for the parking, and,
Not necessarily.
well,
What if somebody had a lot that they want to do both?
Well, even if there's two RFPs,
but I
you can
think
fill both of them out.
specifically, they needs to be one for parking and one for transportation, because they're transportation companies that, they need to be separate.
Right.
I'm sure you've looked into it. That lot, the empty lot beside Heather's Airport, that's probably
The
like
golden lot.
the golden, really expensive.
Someone going to explain to her?
It is privately owned,
Yeah,
and
I thought it was not for sale. Not for sale.
I can't say no for sure, but there are talks going on various respects to that lot. So right now, nothing to date.
Okay.
I love how you guys always look to
Looking,
me.
At the chair.
Doesn't fit all in there.
You know it all,
I will never
No,
say that I
no,
do
I,
that. No.
You know,
and that's a good way.
Cindy's more familiar with that aspect certainly than
Yeah.
any one of us could have sort of answered that question, but she's
sorry,
pretty much
I'm wearing
in
too
this
many
game.
hats.
Well, I agree with Cindy, I think the RFP thing, I think we just, just
Yeah.
get this process going, and if we need to.
See if there's any interest.
Right.
So the RFP, anybody here ever written an RFP?
I'm gonna reach out to folks.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think
But we have to make sure that we.
I'm gonna reach out to folks.
Okay.
Charlene's gonna reach out, because
Yeah.
this is one of those things that other towns have gone through already. If we have a baseline to start, because there's nothing worse than writing something if we don't have knowledge of how it really should be written. So if we have some samples, then we can take it and look to how we want to fine tune it for our town.
I would prefer not to reinvent the wheel.
No, exactly.
why I'm
And
reaching
that's-
out to other
That's
towns.
why I asked if Charlene had some,
In the planning world, you beg, borrow, and steal.
That's right.
Don't reinvent.
so if we could do that, then,
Used to write them years ago. Never again.
Okay. That's number one.
that, and
Yeah,
then,
two RFPs.
and then,
Transportation is one RFP, and the second one will be the parking.
yeah, there should be two separate, one for transportation, one for parking, because there could be someone that's a transportation company that's not gonna fill out the pieces of the parking, one. The
Oh,
other,
you can, all right, never mind. Go.
you know how things,
Yeah. You can have one RFP that has two parts to it, and they don't have to respond to both.
I think that could get confusing with how our, sometimes things go.
But if somebody has a parking lot out
Right.
in
Okay.
Never Never Land,
All right.
okay, you got a parking lot, how are you gonna get people from A to B? So they're,
Six-person
I'll
golf
reach
cart,
out.
street legal.
We'll leave it at that.
And then the other thing, because we need to start gathering, and now that this is gonna be one, and have always been, I don't like the whole meter, not warm and fuzzy kind of thing, because our brand for the town that was done is the warm side of the Cape. I will gather all the financial pieces for the whole kiosk stuff so that we have that. So when we do need to, if that has to be down the road some point, at least we'll have all that. So I think if we do the RFP stuff and then getting the cost stuff, at least we'll have those pieces ready.
Should we look into the trial run first versus
Yeah, I'm
the
gonna look-
step that I think you're?
I'm gonna contact
Yeah.
Situate and see where.
I think that's a phenomenal idea. I mean, it's simple, it's probably somewhat cost-effective, because you don't want to put one in somebody threw out the other day that, oh, it's only $5,000. I said, no. You
It's
heard
not.
you heard one part of the conversation.
Oh,
It's-
exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
Because
and
just the
trials of it.
interim, I mean, the preliminary information that I had gathered when we first started, the kiosks each, without the software and all the stuff, was $15,000. So there's more to it than people think.
And then you need the person who's gonna monitor the kiosks and do the walkthrough, because, you know, you can walk in, park your car and go, I'm not getting a
Well,
thing
and
at the
even,
kiosk, and
you know,
walk away.
So like, say say we had kiosks, we'd have to have 2 down at the municipal lot in Harwichport. So that has to tap in to my internet. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. So I think these are the big chunk things that we need to start doing, just to have it ready.
All right, with regard to the kiosk, that's going to be a future item. But you'd like to have all the information, I
Yes.
understand that, available for it right now. But would we include the kiosk as part of this proposal? I don't.
Of the
Part
RFP?
of what
No,
No, no,
not the RFP,
What proposal?
but bringing it into the same, we do the proposal for the parking, the transportation, and we've mentioned the kiosk. But the kiosk would come about after we figure out what we're gonna do with this RFP.
I'm not ready to go kiosk.
Oh, no,
discussion.
no, no,
A
no.
recommendation.
That's my point.
If that's what you're
Nothing.
asking.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, but
I think we're
So-
cart before horse.
But we have,
No, no,
well, no, the reason I'm saying that I think, and unless someone else wants to do the gathering, we need to start having information come September, whether or not, but at least we have the information. I'm going into probably the busiest time. And if you guys want the information to have in a little folder somewhere, so when we then reconvene in September and we say, okay, this is what worked in Harwichport, this is what we're thinking, we have it. So you mentioned, before we leave today, we need to have what we're gonna work on.
Right.
I'd like to have this done so that I know come September, I'm not having to run around,
Right, okay,
okay?
seems reasonable,
That's the only reason why I
Certainly.
brought that piece up.
okay.
Can I ask you another question?
Certainly.
You can cut me off anytime.
No, I won't be.
Do we have any idea how many Uber and Lyft drivers we have in Harwich? I'm thinking of putting the tourist hat on, as you said before, and how young people like to get around. They're not gonna go to the high school to get a shuttle to go somewhere. Uber, Lyft, right from wherever they are right then and there.
I don't have an answer to that. I do know my children use Uber when they're down here. My son and his wife, they
Yeah,
Uber
my
when
daughter
they go
Uber
around.
around.
The weekend
Yeah.
to go to.
So there are obviously Uber drivers down here. Now, how we get that information?
I don't think we can, because they don't get licensed like like a cab or a taxi.
And they can be
No.
on and off duty whenever they
Exactly.
Yeah,
want.
they don't go through the same permitting
Let
and
me
licensing.
reach out to somebody
But I know
and
how
see
we
if,
can. I mean, like in the summertime, I've done this. There's always an Uber driver on the corner of Freeman and Bank Street. And I'm going, and it shows that car moving, and I'm always going, I wonder who that is. Because occasionally when I Uber, there's one right there. So all we need to do is, And that would be kind of a fun thing to do, is just pretend you want to take a ride with Uber or Lyft and see if
Well,
there's,
there you go, you've got a
and
project.
see if there's any around. There wouldn't be very many right now, but
Yeah.
I've never heard my children or their friends say when they needed an Uber to get home, they couldn't get one. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, you said your kids take it.
Yeah, they use it, and actually
So
have
that's
had
a good thing.
one
and
of
we
the guests
could,
Uber from the house.
could be actually,
Never used
I can see Harwich saying, we can provide, I mean, all you need is the signs where you have your Uber and your Lyft drop-off and pickups. Safe places to do it, just like airports do it now, and lots of other places. You go to a big hotel, you go to the sign, so that the drivers know where they're picking you up and dropping you off. And people might go right from their home to downtown Harwich Port, and it doesn't cost the town anything compared to the transportation costs that we might be talking about.
Okay. I'll reach out to somebody I know with regard to Uber. I'm not certain that that's gonna be part of our, at this time. I think we're gonna concentrate right now on the parking and transportation, the kiosk aspect of this. And, because at Uber, not something we can control, but yes, if it's available out there, yeah.
They may respond to the transportation
Right.
part of this
Yeah.
Yeah,
proposal.
Plus, I mean, how do I say this politically correctly? What is and I'm not saying that the Harwich or the Cape has good or bad Uber and Lyft people. But where's the liability and
Yeah.
where's the, you gotta be really careful about stuff like this.
yeah,
That's just, I'm just throwing it out.
yeah.
Yes, it is the age where people do it for convenience, but I don't know.
Oh, it would have to be sort of an independent
Yes.
thing, obviously. It's not the town in any way.
I don't know that, I'm just gonna leave it at that, I'm
Yeah,
not gonna
yeah.
comment anymore.
Yeah,
All right. I'm just pick up on, I don't think if I'm a Uber driver, they will commit. I mean, they're gonna get their customers regardless of anything that involves us,
involves us, yeah.
you know?
And there are some wonderful people that are doing it. I
Yeah,
do know a
yeah.
few. But I just want us to be careful of what we embrace because of any liability things that
Yeah,
could come
yeah,
down the
yeah.
road.
All right. So it would appear that it's going to be the preparation of an RFP for parking, one for transportation. Cindy is going to look into the cost factor with regard to the kiosk. I'll see if I can help her with regard to that. For the immediacy of parking, pretty much everything is.
It's in place for this
it's in
season.
place for the
Yeah.
season,
Let the trial begin,
yeah.
because that's what it is. It's a
Yeah,
trial
I
run
mean,
to see.
and that was part of what we agreed as a committee, that yes, when we went in front of the selectmen, that yes, we were doing something this summer, that we have to. So this is an education.
So you understand, what's in place is going to be what's being done at the municipal parking lot, the signs that are already in place up
Yeah,
there.
I've seen them.
The individual who may come in either on Cindy's side or John's side, that'll check the parking for us, so we can have some information regarding how many folks are actually coming into the parking lot to park at the beach. Get that information, as worthwhile as it may or may not be, and move on from there. Does anybody have any additionals to that?
I just want to
John?
clarify, if the parking enforcement officer is going to try to monitor it in between beaches, that will be more of a to tally how many cars are in the lot,
Okay,
not beach goers.
Well, yeah, that's true, you wouldn't have. any
Okay, so
idea.
that's gonna be to
Right.
see, are we 90% full?
Yeah.
What's the left lot look like?
Sure,
So on
okay.
and so forth.
And that's, you know,
That's reasonable.
and just so all of you know, I have mentioned it before, but our volunteers will have a script of if anyone comes in, you know, if they see people going by or if they come in and ask about beach parking, they'll have a script. They've also been instructed that not to run out the front door, to just call me. I'll go out and let people know that we do have other options for beaches, but I don't want anyone to feel that they've been attacked for running by the front door with all their beach stuff. I'll go out the other front door and just mention that if they'd like to come in, I can help them with a beach sticker or direct them in other ways. So.
No
we're going-
bullhorn with the floaties.
No, we're gonna make this
Back
as,
away from the vehicle.
yep, we're gonna make this as happy and streamlined as best
On
as
that note.
possible.
All right,
Next
any
meeting?
further?
Next meeting?
Yeah. All right, the next meeting will be, let's come up with a date.
And while we're figuring that out, I'm hoping someone will take over secretarial duties, because I can't be doing this. I'll still be here, but if somebody else can do minutes, that would be great. I'll still post meetings and that kind of stuff.
I'm gonna step aside on that
Yeah,
one,
Cindy-
sorry.
Cindy can't do it. She just doesn't have the time either, so think about it for the next meeting, because right now I am swamped.
All right. So let me ask you this. Since I won't be taking the meeting minutes, I don't know if anybody's actually capable of it. Will the selectmen provide somebody?
No, there's no
They
money.
won't. All right, as,
They don't
well,
have the money to
since
pay
we are a
anybody.
committee, what's the recommendation? You know, no,
You don't need to have the conversation now. I'm not expecting a conversation now.
You have a format, correct?
Well,
A template?
I have my meeting minutes.
Okay. Send me that and I'll block out
No,
some,
you-
no, I'm gonna handwrite, I'm not gonna follow it on computer.
But-
But this is,
But
it's fine.
But it's not fair to Cindy.
I can put the
And
minutes,
also-
I can put the minutes together.
Also, I did not intend to have a conversation about this today.
Okay.
Just, I'm putting it out there that I'm hoping somebody else, after the next meeting, will take over doing the meeting minutes. You and I will talk off.
Can you please send that?
I always send you guys the
Thank you.
minutes.
Yeah. All right, the next meeting is going to be, can we come up with a date that, now, we'd spoken about not having a July and August. That is not gonna be possible. We're gonna have to do something in July and August. So, we further had indicated to the public that we might want to talk about the evening meeting. That seemed to bring quite a bit of interest.
It did, and I know Charlene and I have spoken before about having Crazy Town
Yep.
meetings rather. Got minutes of the brain now, thanks. I think being that we really do need to hear from the residents, and if they can only do at night, we should have at least one, especially if we're gonna be meeting, and we have agreed we have to meet in July and August for our committee to continue working on stuff. I think we have to pick one in those months that we do offer a 5:30. And yes, it's an additional thing for me to do, but I think we have to.
Before we commit to which one it is, I think we should have a full plate. I don't think we
yeah.
should come in
No.
and schedule a meeting
Very
at
similar to like the
5:30.
summer
That
non-residents.
we're done at 5:45 because there wasn't much on the agenda.
Right.
You want to make sure we have a lot to discuss, or maybe a lot to update people on.
Let's, and I throw this out to the committee. What we have just discussed among ourselves today, my thought was, at the next meeting, we allow the same process from the public. Ask for their input. Does that make any sense?
I think that makes great sense. I was just wondering, would it make sense to have one more meeting in June? I'm not a meeting fan, but have one more meeting in June, and then we have July and August to kind of put it all together, to then have a presentation for September. I just don't know, the 2 meetings would be enough
To
time.
take a little pressure off, could somebody get a confirmation? Why are we presenting numbers? They don't start the budget in September,
No, I know,
do
that was just, they had
Actually, we start at late September, early
Yeah.
October.
Yeah, that's what was brought up at the meeting.
We start talking budget and capital, and this may be a capital.
Yeah, one of the selectmen
Project.
indicated that they want to have some numbers.
Which I think makes sense, because we always seem to be pushing it off, and
Yeah, oh,
then the
God,
whole
yeah,
season
yeah,
runs
yeah.
by, and then we're not.
And they even spoke of that last night. Why, I think the week was farther along, last night, about even their summer schedule and maybe including another meeting, because they do want to get things in place earlier than later this year on things. So do we want to do June 25th?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
All right,
Tuesday, 10:30?
Tuesday, June 25th, 10:30.
And then the July meeting?
That's 2 months out, wow.
If we do that in June so that we're really ready, and so again, June 25th is
That'll be a
just
prep for July.
a prep for July.
What's the July planning board meetings?
9th and 23rd.
We don't, okay.
All right,
We
so,
don't want a conflict.
And I'm
Mr.
not here
Chair,
the second.
while we're discussing,
July
is there a
2nd.
night that is better
Right, that's my question.
for Charlene and
well,
Cindy?
this 9th isn't, July 9th isn't.
Any night
It
of the
can't
week,
be on a
doesn't have to
planning
be a
board meeting
Tuesday.
night. I do not want it the same week as a planning board
Right,
meeting,
and that-
'cause
and
that
that's
just
why I
kills
just,
me.
that's why I
what
just
we're
asked her.
So the 16th or the 30th
Of July?
of July
Yep.
in the evening.
And what days, just curious, what days of the week? are they?
Tuesdays.
Tuesday.
Let's stick with Tuesday for our meetings, because people are
Yeah.
programmed to that. It's just the time that will,
If we're looking for input from as many people as possible, are more of them or less of them here the week of the 4th of July? So
No,
should,
no, no, no,
I'm
no.
not here.
No, no,
you're
no.
not here.
We just said the only options for the evening meeting,
The
Or
16th.
Oh, the
16th or
16th,
the
so not the 2nd.
yeah, no.
No.
So why don't we shoot for the 16th?
The 16th is it.
At 5:30?
I'm going to say tentative.
Yes. Could have a hurricane. All right, so the August meeting will be determined on the 16th.
Which will be finalized on the 25th.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Thank you for coming, Ralph.
What else did I do on a Tuesday?
We enjoy your company.
I'm glad.
All right, may I have a...
Motion to adjourn.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye, so called.